Jeff Sessions of Alabama is the top Republican on the Senate Budget Committee. Joins me here on Capitol Hill. Thank you very much for the time. We saw Speaker Boehner, the Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid at the White House late last night. What are the chances right now you think we're going to see a shutdown on Friday?
Well, I hope that we can get things worked out in a way that's consistent with the message of the last election. There was a shellacking of the big spenders. The Democrats couldn't even pass a budget, so they passed a 5-month spending. So when the Republicans have this big majority in the House, I think it's inevitable that we're going to reduce spending. That was the message of the last election. So to some degree, I think President Obama and the Democratic leadership, particularly in the Senate, were in denial. But we're making progress. We're moving forward, and hopefully we can get some numbers that people can live with.
Are you any less confident that there is going to be a shutdown on Friday? And what about those who suggest Republicans want a shutdown to make a point, to make a line in the sand?
Well, I think the House has already sent over a bill that funds the government through the rest of the year. Who's shutting down the government? Who's rejecting? The Senate hadn't passed a counter bill. So the one piece of legislation would fund the government. It would reduce spending by $61 billion out of $3,700 billion for the year, and that's not too much. As a matter of fact, it's significant because it reduces the baseline of spending, which would be about $860 billion in savings over 10. But in the short term, it's not a huge hammer to the economy or to spending.
Well, let me ask you about the bigger picture here, because to some extent what we're talking about here, the billions in dollars, it's almost a sideshow given the bigger fight over the next year's budget, the years after that. You had Paul Ryan roll out his plan over in the House of Representatives. What's your level of optimism that this minor skirmish here can lead to a broader consensus on those budget battles to come? Because there's a lot of skepticism right now.
Well, the American people are engaged in this. My phone is ringing off the hook, say don't give in, keep fighting. But so I do think there's an incorrect perception that discretionary spending is not meaningful. It is meaningful. This little $61 billion over 10 years saves almost $1 trillion in savings. It reduces the baseline. Discretionary spending has to be reduced before you ask the American people to consider changes in their Social Security or Medicare.
But you know that it's entitlements at the end of the day that's really the big ticking time bomb here for the government. Are you and other Republicans willing to sit down and talk about these issues with Democrats?
Social Security is slightly in deficit today. It's going to get worse in the years to come. The deficit today is primarily discretionary spending. That's where the deficit's being driven. Now, we've got to get those programs that are on an unsustainable course under control without damaging good recipients who need those monies and those benefits. So that's what Chairman Ryan has worked on. This is a historic budget. For the first time ever, he's looked at the long-term health of our economy, the long-term health of America. He's proposed a solution that will actually work. And what have we had from the president? Nothing but attacks. The Democrats are attacking him for doing the right thing. They're calling him extreme. They're saying it's dead on arrival. It's unreasonable and unsustainable. When it's their budget that's completely out of touch with reality.
His Medicare and Medicaid changes, Jeff Sessions is prepared to offer something similar here in the Senate?
Well, we've got to deal with Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security in the long run, don't we? Surely nobody disagrees with that, except the White House is not proposing anything and actually attacking anybody that does. This is the fundamental choice we're facing. It's not just Republicans and Democrats in a squabble. This is totally incorrect. It's the Republican House has proposed a solution that can actually put us on a path to prosperity, whereas the Democratic Senate is doing nothing, and the president has submitted the most irresponsible budget in the history of the American Republic.
Let me ask you about the one set of bipartisan talks, which some people suggest are gaining traction, the Gang of Six talks, this effort to make the President's Deficit Commission, that proposal into law. It includes Republicans and Democrats. You're not part of those talks right now. What do you make of the notion that those talks are gaining traction because Mr. Ryan's plan, as you said, unacceptable to Democrats, the president's proposal, unacceptable to Republicans? This is bipartisan. This might work. What do you make of that?
Well, I hope it works. Nothing would make me happier. But we've got to see if there's a plan that will actually make a difference. I don't think there's going to be an agreement. If President Obama says there can't be any changes, that his budget's got to be the one he just submitted to us, is going going to be the baseline of spending, I don't see how that's possible. But it also is reaching a point where the Gang of Six is either got to produce something or not. We're already on top of the budget deadline for passing a budget. The excuse has been, well, we are hoping that the Gang of Six might reach an agreement. It would make me happy if they reached a good agreement.
All right.
And we'll see.
All right, Senator Jeff Sessions, appreciate the time.